Hello, Path of Exile to hardcore gamers and casual players. Welcome to this, my judgment of Infernalist Minions build at patch 02 level. This is not a guide, but rather my findings about this build. But first of all, English is not my native language, so let me apologize up front for any language mistakes I could make during this presentation. Also, as I'm not a pro, my approach to this build could have errors. You are more than welcome to leave your comments and corrections in comment section below. Second of all, I'm lazy, and that's why I choose minions builds, where my minions do the job for me. So in PoE2 Early Access, I've played that godly witch Infernalist bombarding minions build. It was fun. I was running around, spamming raging spirits and flammability curse, and that's it. Any mobs and bosses were killed in a matter of seconds. The only disadvantage of this build was FPS. Fire animations from Infernalist Minion is very graphic card, resource hungry, and so at 4K resolution. During intensive fights, my relatively old Nvidia card wasn't able to deliver more than 50 FPS. And then patch 02 came out. There is a list of what has been nerfed for minions build. In other words, build became practically unplayable because I lost minions DPS and a lot of my defense from the shield. I told you already, I'm lazy, and so I do not want to start a new char. Instead, I focused to restore my confidence to Infernalist Minion build and make it playable and fun again in patch 02. Thereby, please allow me to say a few words about RPG in general. I was lucky enough to participate in closed WoW beta test in 2003 and then played it 16 years non-stop. Playing World of Warcraft, we used to say, screen cap it or it never happened. That's why this presentation contains many screen captures and short videos from the game itself to prove my findings. I also like Blizzard's approach to keep WoW alive. Expansions, seasons where I do not get much of a content, but forcing to start new char from scratch is not my favorite thing. Anyway, let's go back to the subject. Unfortunately, PoE2 doesn't provide reliable DPS data for minion. Look here, 11,625. Remove one level of minion skills and we got 10,829. Put it back and we got 11,726. Remove it, 10,829 again. Put it back and it's now 11,926. I have no clue why it is as such. Now let's compare all existing individual skeletal minions by DPS, HP, spirit cost, command ability and quality effect. The numbers are taken from skills window and corresponding minion tab without any support gem. You could get additional skeletons via Spectre gem, but they are counted only as a single one. Not a finished feature of the game. It should be polished, completed especially in abilities description and DPS information. Do not pay attention to the absolute value of those numbers. They depend on gear and other factors, might be different for your setup, but important is relative value. In other words, I'm not changing any gear etc. during this comparison, and so the relative values are valid. Snipers have the second high base DPS and low spirit cost, plus quality decreases spirit cost of them, while storm mages have the highest DPS and energy shield from the game quality. Demonstrates how many minions you could have. There is a linear dependence until you reach the point where DPS increase by number of different minions is lower than DPS coming from increasing of the number of DPS minions. Plus, there is a need to take into account the spirit cost of a minion. It ended up for me as 8 different persistent minions, and I still need to spend 30 spirits on my own emergency survival tool, Convalescence. Now let's compare how different minions perform. Same gear, almost the same map, and we do have 24 skeleton mages and 38 snipers. The difference is because snipers are much cheaper in spirit cost. The game style is the same. I cast appropriate curse, and then minions do the rest of the job. Too bad GGG doesn't provide any real DPS meter or API for external one. So HP is taken from the last frame where I could see the numbers. As you might see, they perform almost equally. The reason they perform almost equally is in basics of skeleton mages. They do chains, which in the end makes bosses shocked, which is 20% increased damage. The debuff you see on the bosses is exactly those 20% more damage. And also the curse we have removes about 39 lightning resistance, which results in overall higher DPS. So in the end, my minions have 443 increased damage and 212 increased HP. You see the resistances. And now let's talk about gems. So Skeletal Storm Mage has Master, is a must for any build. And then descriptions are on your screen, just read those. Then we have Arsonists, Snipers, Frost Mage, Skeletal Clerics, and 2 is important, I'll talk about that later. And 1 Spectre, which has been chosen because it's the cheapest one on Spirit. Another important ability is this Pain Offering, that substantially increase minions' DPS and necessary on boss fights. As I said before, Convalescence is my only emergency click, which saves me very often, and it restores my energy shield. And Conductivity is a curse, which is essential for DPS. You should be able to burst DPS in some very tough endgame fights with bosses. That's why I'm using also Sigil of Power, which came from chiming stuff. You should set up 2 weapon sets. Stuff is in set 2. You cast Sigil of Power, it switches all your gear to this set. You lose your minions, but then you cast your curse, which is the set number 1, which brings all of your minions back. Then I cast Pain Offering, and then 3 more times curse, which increases Sigil of Power effect by 4. That is 54% more spell damage. Let's look at character stats. I maxed all resistances, and my energy shield is almost 9000. Mana is not important, and spirit is 618. If you look into the gear, there are a few important things. The first one is level of all minion skills. I have 10, and as I said before, each level is about 10% of DPS. Unfortunately, after patch 02 went live, this Dawn of the Hunt, level of all minion skills for Scepter has been decreased from 5 to 4. The rest of the gear collects strength, health, and appropriate resistances to max it up. Speaking of passive skills, the goal was to get as many as possible minions DPS, as well as their health, and I'll explain why health is so important. Also the resistances, and for jewels I was able to collect the very high value ones that increase my shield and minions DPS. You also should set up your weapon set, because you need some different passive skills allocation specifically for Sigil of Power. It happened that Sigil remains even when you switch to weapon set 1. So let me show that one. You press X and you are in set number 2 now, and that is skill effect duration. That's a major goal in this setup. The result is quite impressive, because you have your Sigil of Power duration increased up to around 27 seconds. You will see it in a second. Here we go. Alternative gear, Scepter. I do have 2, and I found that for my experience it is much more important to have increased maximum life than increased damage out of your presence. By the way, the presence is this, and it's quite a large radius, so you should stay close to your minions. Speaking of boots, yes, I do have the ones that reduces minion reservation by 20%, but they are too slow. And finally, let's see how this build performs with the same boss as in patch 01 I've started this presentation with. Minion performance from my perspective is quite good, and I still running around like a chicken, caring only about my health, but as you see, they down this boss was easy, even it take a bit more time.
Nothing will stand in my way.
There were 2 most difficult bosses or areas for me. And the first one is this Simulacrum. What I found is that you should move very fast and you should burst your DPS as much as possible. So these are 3 last waves. You could see how it plays and how all my abilities and minions perform. Fighting with mobs in Simulacrum is very difficult. You should move fast, you should do a lot of DPS, and what I found and what I've mentioned before, your skeletons should stay as long as possible, because they are major DPS dealers. That's why I focused on increasing their HP. It's based on my experience, and that's why I found that at least 2 clerics should be in your team to keep them alive as long as possible. Personally, for me, speed of movement is critical. I've tried to play with the boots that allow me to summon more minions, but without any speed increase, and I simply cannot take it.
My agent of chaos. You shall serve me whether you like it or not. I'm not going anywhere.
The Arbiter of Ash, from my perspective, is still bugged. I was able to reach only T4 because his behavior is unpredictable. Sometimes it performs all his abilities in a sequence, sometimes it's just nothing. You will see there were 3 attempts with the usual Arbiter abilities, and the third one he did practically nothing, and that's how I slain him.
And her wounds worsen. Cleansing foretold is ordained. Sacred fire of the mother soul, you are called in significance. The 4th edict already burns for your a predetermined outcome. The mother soul. The 4th edict already burns for your She revokes your existence. Your affliction will soon be replaced. Submit, Plagueborn.
There is a link in description with some other bosses I've slain and with this build, and thanks for watching.